Now, to a crucial day for the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's set to address the British Parliament. Starmer facing calls for his resignation over his handling of the appointment of Peter Mandelson, a senior figure in his ruling Labour Party, as US ambassador, although it later emerged he'd failed a vetting process. Now, Mandelson was sacked as ambassador in September last year, following revelations about the depth of his ties with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, with Starmer apologising for appointing him in the first place, Starmer continuing to deny that he knew that Mandelson had failed the vetting when he appointed him, though. Well, we're going to cross to London, talk to our correspondent, Bénédicte Paviot. Bénédicte, it's a complicated story, isn't it, this? But it's a difficult day at the end of it all for Keir Starmer.
Yes, it is a complex story, and it is definitely a very tough day ahead for Keir Starmer, and possibly tomorrow. I'll explain why in a moment. To mislead Parliament, for any minister to do so, let alone a prime minister, is a very serious matter. That is the accusation that Keir Starmer will face this afternoon when he addresses the House of Commons. It will be box office, blockbuster. It's being called by the British press a day of reckoning, and these are very serious charges that are being laid against the Prime Minister, that he knowingly misled Parliament. That is the accusation from virtually all the leaders of the opposition parties, including the biggest one, the Tory party. Therefore, this is a very grave matter. This is something that Keir Starmer absolutely denies. He says that he actually did not know that the Foreign Office had actually not cleared Peter Mandelson of the highest security before he was sent and appointed to be the UK ambassador to Washington. That post is the most prestigious in British diplomacy. So effectively, it means the United Kingdom did send an ambassador, Peter Mandelson, former EU commissioner, former minister who'd had to resign 3 times from previous Labour governments. And this is therefore an extremely serious matter. His links to Epstein were already in the public domain, but some of the defence previously of Keir Starmer, when questioned over the last several months in Parliament, has been that he and his aides, Downing Street, were not aware of how close those links were. So among the very many questions that the Prime Minister will face, basically, is who knew what when. So some of the key questions: who approved Mandelson's clearance? Crucially, why were those concerns overruled and by whom? And it seems that it's Ollie Robbins, the top civil servant at the Foreign Office, who has been, what the British media are calling, thrown under the bus, and is being blamed for keeping this non-clearance, security clearance, in fact, and that is therefore a very, now another bone of contention, because that same Ollie Robbins is due to appear, if he accepts the invitation, he hasn't yet, before a parliamentary committee tomorrow. So day of jeopardy today and possibly tomorrow for Keir Starmer.
Bénédicte, I mean, it is the latest, isn't it, in a series of problems for Keir Starmer. I mean, how dangerous would you say today is for Starmer? I mean, unlikely to resign, I suppose, but he could, of course, face some kind of leadership challenge.
It is a dangerous day, and as I said, tomorrow may be also equally dangerous, because we'll get the boss, the Prime Minister's version today, and we'll see how he acquits himself of that, whether his explanations are convincing and do manage to convince the opposition, including some very many angry MPs, Labour MPs within his own party. Will there be a leadership challenge this week? It seems not. Let's remember there was a scare last September. There were then more rumours of a leadership challenge just mid-February. But the war against Iran and the leadership, in that sense, of the United Kingdom in trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or help with the after-war situation in the Strait of Hormuz has bought him some time. Also, there's no evident, clear runner. Their names, of course, in the fray. The bookies here in Britain, of course, are mentioning all kinds of different people, former ministers, current ministers. It doesn't seem like a leadership challenge is in the offing, but it will not help the Labour Party in the upcoming local elections on May the 7th. A Labour Party that already, according to the polls, is going to do really badly, as will indeed, it would seem, the Conservatives. It is a very fractious time in British politics already, so it looks like Reform UK, the Greens, possibly the Liberal Democrats, the Scottish National Party will benefit from really this unpopularity. And this really feeds the cynicism of the British public about who is really running the country. What kind of grip does this Prime Minister have on British politics? One of the words that is being used is, how incurious was he that he did not check that Peter Mandelson had actually been cleared? So time of jeopardy, and we will see how and what Keir Starmer says to defend himself and explain why he did not know that Peter Mandelson had not had that security clearance.
All to follow, and Bénédicte will be doing it for us, of course, throughout the day here on France 24.